150 years of industrial pollution, beginning in the late 1800s, and now it's 1969. Our rivers are on fire in the US. We have toxic exposure for children. We have our bald eagle on what would soon become the endangered species list from DDT, and a host of other issues. You couldn't see across the street in Los Angeles, apparently, during rush hour. It was so polluted with smog. So we had a youngish senator from the center of the US, Gaylord Nelson, who wanted to create an environmental teach-in to take advantage of the social unrest and commitment of young people around civil rights and the Vietnam War and a bunch of other issues that were inspiring youth to take action at the time. So capitalizing on that, he came up with a great idea to do a teach-in. Then he hired a young, amazing guy named Dennis Hayes. And Dennis and he turned it from an environmental teach-in on campus to a national event that brought 20 million people out into the streets, which remains the largest civic event in human history. Nothing has ever come close to 20 million people in a single country, which represented about 11% of our population. Largely peaceful in every city, small town, park across the country. And it scared the heck out of Richard Nixon, who was a little paranoid to begin with, and most of the Congress, which then responded in a really powerful way to the popularity overnight, I think, of environmentalism. And after that first Earth Day, the US legislature, and Richard Nixon signed them all, created this huge list of environmental rules and regulations, but particularly laws, our major laws, from the Endangered Species Act, Toxic Control Act, our Pesticides Act. I mean, the list goes on of laws that passed in quick succession, taking advantage of what happened on that first Earth Day and also responding to this massive outcry about where things were. But even beyond Earth Day, the same organizers, Dennis Hayes in particular, created something called the Dirty Dozen. So Earth Day was in April 1970, and elections were later that year. And they identified 12 members of Congress, called the Dirty Dozen, that they were going after. Those people in particular were anti-environmental in their view, and they defeated most of them. So that combination of 20 million people on the streets and this super election result created this wave, this honeymoon for environmental regulation in the United States. And so for 10 years, that ripple effect of Earth Day was extraordinary. It also led to the creation of most of the big environmental groups, many of which celebrate their 50th anniversary in the years following that first Earth Day. So it was a combination of factors of a great, huge percentage of our population, the wake-up call for Congress and Richard Nixon. And by the way, he signed and celebrated many of the laws that Congress passed. So he had a good environmental record. And then that sort of era of honeymoon where I think corporations and others weren't quite prepared to fight back the way they were in subsequent decades. Now, and I think we'd say generally over the last couple of decades, we've been in a standoff around climate change and other environmental issues. That all changed, of course, in November, and we're in a different place altogether.